Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of a discussion. I am joined again by Anton. Good evening, Anton. How are you?
Good afternoon, good evening. Good, thanks yourself.
I'm doing all right, thank you. We are slightly limited in things to talk about this week, it must be said. Obviously, with the current COVID situation at the club, our game on Tuesday was called off, and now, honestly, recently our game against Blackpool on Saturday has also been called off, which does seem like, given the circumstances, the correct decision, and one that contrasts what we've heard earlier in the season. But, at the end of the day, the right decision, do you think, Anton?
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, safety has to come paramount first. Players are human beings, the same as us supporters, and I've seen a lot of stuff on the Blackpool website moaning that obviously we've cancelled the game and we've done it underhandedly. But at the end of the day, we've got to make sure that the players that have got it are safe. The players that haven't got it are also maintained safe, and they don't kind of spread it. Obviously, then that spreads out towards the family and friends as well. Um, whoever's in their bubbles. So I think it's the correct decision. You do think back and think, why was the whole game not done? Was that a case of Burton Albion just trying to keep their pride and try and get through it, or was there something else? But at the end of the day, this time I think it is the correct decision. Obviously, with reported of 8 in the squad, players and staff having it. So obviously they had another round of testing, I believe, yesterday. So yeah, definitely the right decision. And they say people's well-being is the most important thing, not a game of football.
Yeah, and I mean, it was kind of interesting. I was slightly surprised to see kind of, some people kind of taking a bit more of a kind of political view on it, if you will, and going, oh, well, Blackpool have hit some decent form. We've almost forced the game to be called off, but, I don't think we're about that at all. So, but yeah, as you said, safety paramount is, and that's why the EFL have come to the decision to call it off.
We have to apply, don't we? I think we have to actually apply. And I think now that the Blackpool game's under investigation, that's how I've read the statement this afternoon. Yeah. So I might be wrong, but I believe there'll be an investigation into this calling off, unlike the first one. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, and you'd assume that we should be all in the green after that anyway, or I would hope so. But one person who was not affected was Jimmy Floyd Hasselbaink, as I'm not sure if you're watching the FA Cup a few days ago, Anton, but he was on there. He kind of
dapper in his hat, yes.
Teased us with a bit of a transfer thing and then dropped off. But there has been a lot of rumours swirling about recently, which really suggests us kind of stepping up our game. Were you interested to hear what he said on that Chelsea game at halftime interview, where I was kind of surprised they kind of focused a lot on us, which, a lot of people probably weren't too happy about, but, he had some interesting things to say.
Yeah, I think the first thing was, it was very interesting, the fact that the squad was obviously in isolation, but he was actually tested negative, but still allowed out and was allowed, to mix with other folks. So that was an interesting one for me. But obviously, the powers that be obviously passed it, so that's by the by. But no, we obviously dropped a hint in that there was an exciting player he was looking at, which made, once that was said, my phone was certainly red hot, and people asking me, did I know anything, or have I read anything, or do I have any inkling who it might be? And everyone was obviously getting excited. It might be Nasser. But actually, I looked on Nasser's Instagram, and the 12 hours before, he'd posted a picture of him on the treadmill in the sunshine. So unless there's a secret kind of hole somewhere in England where the sun was shining and probably about 20, 30 degrees, I don't think Nasser's going to be flying to the country anytime soon. But stranger things have happened. But no, Jimmy dropped on that there was an exciting player he was looking at and waiting for an answer for. Obviously, then it turned out Tuesday or Monday that he said that he'd missed out, and the player had decided not to commit to anything at the moment, so he didn't think that was likely. But obviously, as you say, the Twitter rumours and the social media rumours are red hot at the minute, as you expect any time of year. But as I found out in the past, many moons ago, when I got told we were going to sign Scott Gemmell, and that never happened. So there's more chance of signing Archie Gemmell for anyone that remembers him. But no, so I don't take to Twitter too much or social media rumours. I was waiting until the powers that be say anything.
Well, I would tend to agree with you there. It's, they're never the most reliable sources, but I think that's kind of what we're going to delve into. Like I said, a lot of names have been floating about. One that's been present for at least a week for me is Terry Taylor, Wolves kind of, midfielder, defender, pretty versatile player. What do you reckon? He was, is Welsh, 19, is young, is looks like it could be a pretty smart signing if we could bring him in.
Yeah, obviously, I think Jimmy is trying to bring the age of the squad down. I think you can see that from his signings. Barring obviously Parker that's coming, I think is 30, which is towards my age, so I don't class that as old. He is trying to bring the age of the squad down. I say I've read the rumours and done a bit of research, but Terry Taylor, I think, was on loan at Grimsby the beginning half of the year, and obviously since Holloway decided to leave and Paul Hurst coming, I don't think he's kind of had a look in. So obviously, did he fit into Paul Hurst's plans, or was he a bad egg? Don't really know. But it's again, you're reported to sign a player from a Premier League club, reported that it's a permanent deal, but will remain to be seen. But if you're signing somebody permanently, you've got to be pretty ambitious that he's going to work out, pretty positive that he's going to make the right impact right now, because at the end of the day we can't afford to make wrong signings this current time. We need to make sure we get things right.
Yeah, and as you said, he was on loan at Grimsby last season, and it was pretty interesting looking through and seeing what Grimsby fans were saying about him, because he didn't come across as if he kind of set the world alight. Many of them were kind of felt like feeling like he kind of could have given more, and was struggled at times. But like you said, bringing the age of the squad down is a big thing, because we had a very kind of with all due respect to some of the players we got, but our squad was really on the old end of the league. When you looked around, there's a lot of teams running around with a lot of legs, and we didn't have that. And I think there's actually times this season, last season, where we struggled just because the team's so youthful. They're getting at you. They've got they've just got that extra half a yard on perhaps someone a bit older. Obviously, it's good to have experience in there as well at the same time. We've got the likes of John Brayford, who comes across as a great leader. I know Jake Buxton had a lot of respect for him as well. Has given the captain's armband a lot, and so it's good to get a bit better of a mix in, I think, with like experience and youth and a bit more legs. Do you reckon?
Yeah, as you say, you've got to get the right mix. Obviously, Jake went down the experience route in some of the signings he made. Obviously, signed the more experienced players rather than the younger kind of mould. I think, as we've seen this season, the games are very different in every league we play in. I think every league's fairly open. I think, but the one thing we have seen that games are lasting 90 minutes as they always done, but teams are going at you for longer and harder, and it's you do need those younger legs in there. So we're trying to strike that right balance into the squad again. Obviously, we've had departures of we've had some of the players that have gone out that are older. Obviously, Quinny going to Mansfield, Neil Early leaving for Barrow. So, yeah, some youthful legs are always helpful in there, but you can't beat a bit of experience either. So you say the right mix is important.
Yeah, and it looks like we're trying to strike a balance. Another place that's quite important to strike a balance is in your squad depth, which I think when Jimmy came in, I feel like I remember him mentioning in an interview that, those places where we had a lot of like some really thick squad depth, and there's also places where we were pretty barren of players. I think by kind of bringing in not only, got with some of the players that we'll get onto, defenders, midfielders, which do you think they were the places that were really lacking, especially now, although he's had time to recover? We know John Duratul went out with an injury as well. So currently only 2 real centre-backs in the squad. Obviously, Brayford can fill in as well. But I think, we're trying to strike a balance with the squad depth as well, which is pretty important. We've, brought in some attacking competition for Kane up front as well. It looks, it's starting to kind of come together on paper.
Yeah, obviously there's been departures as well, hasn't there, as incomings. I think all the original loans, I think, have now gone back. I think Bath's gone back today. Obviously, you got Sam Hughes had obviously got injured. You got Niall Ennis. Those guys have gone, and we have brought fresh legs in there. Jimmy wants 2 players for every position. I think one of the beauties that the squad we have had from Nigel and from Jake is that we have got players in there that you can utilise in several positions. Lucas Aitkins can play pretty much everywhere, I think. John Braithwaite can play centre half, right back, and right wing back. You're going to laugh, but Colin Daniels played at centre half, left back, and left wing back. Kieran Wallace again can play central midfield, the holding role. He can play left back and he can play centre defence. So you've got 3 or 4 that can cover kind of lots of positions. Hopefully, not one of them will go, but with only 4 days left of the window, anything's possible. But he is getting competition. But for me, we're still a striker short. I'd still like to see another striker to help Kane, to push Kane, to challenge Kane, and just give us that extra emphasis on getting goals. If we do go behind in games, or when Kane needs a rest.
Yeah, and perhaps for me, it'd be nice to see a kind of a slightly different kind of striker, because I found, and it's kind of going back a bit, but to our last game against Ipswich, Ipswich kind of looked like they kind of figured us out up front, and when we were going forwards, and we didn't really create anything through Kane in that game. And whether it was just an off day for him, but also it'd be nice to have a bit of kind of adaptability up there. Maybe you get, I don't know, maybe you could bring a proper, big traditional striker in and force it a bit more direct. Or, I mean, obviously we've got Parker, who's came in, who was introduced on the wing in that Ipswich game, but can also play up front. He's slightly different to Hemmings, but maybe I wouldn't mind us looking at a bit more of a physical option up front, which is somewhere that we never really kind of seem to have traditionally we've had small strikers, or strikers that aren't purely based around, ball into chest, ball into feet, ball into head. Obviously, Liam Boyce, a brilliant player for us. He was probably the closest we've come to that in quite a while. But you think of, or Chris O'Grady as well, back in the Championship. He was a player that I personally enjoyed watching. And, when they have the pressure on, it's good to have someone who you can go more direct to, and they can kind of keep the ball, which is where I think we struggled in that Ipswich game. So I would like to see, kind of bigger, stronger striker come in who can, keep the ball for us in dangerous areas.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the Ipswich defence was possibly the biggest defence we've probably come up against this season. I think the first time that Kane's struggled really to hold the ball up at any point. He can't knock his work ethic and the way he goes around the pitch and his commitment. It's fantastic. He gets frustrated at times. But in the last five years, probably even longer than that, you looked at the kind of strikers that Burton Albion have had up front. We've never had an out-and-out goal scorer for a long, long time. The last person that's kind of scored goals, I think, consistently and looked always a threat. Obviously, he was going back to Darryl Clare, which is a long, long, long time ago. You've touched on, we had Chris O'Grady. It was kind of like a spearhead. We had Liam Boyce. A lot of the time, the way that Nigel set up, he had his back to goal a lot, and so obviously he was holding the ball and trying to play on the turn and bringing other players into play, and that's how Nigel does tend to set up his sides. Stuart Bevan, he did a lot of his work, like Kane's doing at the moment, around the outside of the 18-yard box and chasing down the channels. So they're not the old-fashioned kind of centre forward that is a fox in the box and is going to score you goals. They're kind of the hard-working ones that close down and bring other people into play. You look back to the Ipswich game, we had 8 shots again, but only a 1 on target. And because Kane isn't, we know he can score goals when he's in the box, but because of the way we play and the way we played in the past, but we're playing now, currently, those midfielders have got to get in the box and obviously feed off on what Kane's picking up, and vice versa. But we had 1 shot on target out of those 8, and that isn't good enough, whether that's from a striker or from the the midfielders that are coming in to help, that conversion rate to shots on target needs to be better. And once that happens, then you will see more goals. So yeah, we do need a different kind of striker up front again to contemplate. To help Kane, to push Kane, and also give us another option if needs be.
Yeah,
The credit out of work. You're just doing gigs on the telly, doing adverts, so it's a perfect mould.
Yeah. One player who we've reportedly been looking at as a defensive option who could provide something pretty special going forward, and I'm a huge fan of this, is Tom Hamer. Is at Oldham, which, brings our links in with Dino as well, possibly a bit of Agent Dino on the go there. And from the things I've heard of him, he's pretty young, right back, centre back. Perhaps not had the greatest of times with Oldham, but one thing is he has apparently got absolutely massive throwing. And after watching the Cheltenham Man City game in the FA Cup and seeing Cheltenham with their, constantly, it's a threat and even still in the modern game, Anton, is he someone that you'd like to see us bring in, whether it be for defence or attack?
I think apart from Rory Delap, I don't think I've ever seen Burton Albion take long throw. Ben Turner may have had a few. But you look at the squad, I know we've got Boswick, I know we've got O'Toole, but you look at our forward players, we haven't got a lot in height going forward, which is obviously what we've just touched on regarding Kane and the strikers and needing that bigger option. So obviously this rumour that's going around about this Tom Hamer from Oldham, he plays centre half and at right back. So again, good competition. If he's got this long throw, then it could be a good kind of weapon to the armoury. But again, it would be another younger option that can play in a numerous kind of positions.
Yeah, and like you said with Dino, and is obviously from looking through some of his tweets, actually it seems like he looks a lot of things in detail. And another thing that you mentioned is that it is at the end of the day another weapon to the armour. It shouldn't negatively affect us in any way. Obviously, the only thing I can think of is bringing someone in with a long throw is that you kind of become too reliant on them delivering and set pieces. But no, competition is important. We've been through this a lot. I think John Brayford's looked, when he's played at right back, he's perhaps looked a bit shaky at times, and he's even when we played, I think the best he looked was when we played the kind of double fullbacks, and he kind of had pace to cover him. But yeah, no, and we're looking at, obviously from the rumours that are swirling about, we are looking at a lot of defenders. Josh Earl is another one who's at Preston. He's been at Ipswich and Bolton pretty recently. 22, another young defender. It looks like we're kind of getting the options together and seeing who we can bring in. And he looks like a solid option. There's decent experience, especially with Bolton, and like you said, depth and quality in that depth is going to be really important for us, and it looks like he could add to that as well.
Have we been linked with Messi yet? There's lots of rumours, isn't there? I think Colston did a piece for the Telegraph/Burton Mail in the last 48 hours about the four main people that were rumoured in. Well, I think if you go onto any club's Twitter or social media channels, there's lots of players being rumoured at this time of year with only 4 or 5 days left of the transfer window. So, I'm sure there will be some truth in some. Someone knows somebody else's brother's sister's pet dog that's related somehow. That's how rumours kind of go around. But there'll be some that have got a little bit of truth in them. There'll be some interest somewhere. Somebody's heard a conversation, and there'll be some that are absolute codswallop. So I think it gets fans excited. I think we can name one or two that probably do get excited by rumours on the social media. But you like me, you kind of go away and look into them and do your research and find if you think they're going to be any good, and then I wait with anticipation to see if they do come in. So yeah, these rumours are great this time of year, and certainly interesting. It's hopefully there was some movement in the next 4 days.
Yeah, and that's kind of all that's been kind of, milling about on the transfer front. And obviously that's all that we've really heard on the Burton front of things. There's, not been too much going on transfer wise, as you mentioned. A few rumours floating around. How true they are, we don't really know. But yeah, it's, we're obviously, by the sounds of it, we're looking at players, which is, doesn't surprise me. I think Jimmy seemed pretty intent on, that the squad depth and the, obviously, getting out, as we've mentioned, some of the, slightly older players, bringing in a bit more youth, which is, how it seems like we're moving, if there's any truth to these, of course.
I think whoever been in charge, I think it was going to be the position we're in, it was going to be a January of, we definitely need to improve in certain areas and kind of rebuild. So, I don't think it's just because we've got a new management team in it. I think with the position we were in, whoever was in charge, if it was Jake as well, the January transfer window certainly is there for teams that are in our position or wanting to push on and get higher up in that league. But, we've not played for a few weeks, and you say it's kind of been very quiet. I think 9 days, since the last signing, roughly, in Dylan Barnes. But I know we've had the COVID outbreak, but I'm sure Jimmy would have used his time to be watching over old games, having maybe meetings over Zoom or whatever, trying to get his tactics across and certainly, again, get them more organised. I'm sure the time has been used well, and not just as a resting period or a recovery period for those that are able to, that aren't struck down by it. So I think it's an important break. Obviously, with it being the COVID situation, that those that have got it, I hope all's well and they get well soon. But those that aren't, hopefully will stay fit, doing work on their own. And obviously, as a team, they'll still be getting tactics and messages through from the management staff.
Yeah, and kind of branching ourselves out a little bit from the Burton and the Football League side of things. Have you watched much of the Premier League recently, Anton? Because it's been a fascinating season for the Premier League.
I think all leagues have been fascinating. But you can't not, if you've got Sky, you can't not watch the Premier League, can you? I'm just disappointed that they keep putting games on BT Sport when it's the one platform I haven't got, but we're not all made of money, so we can't all have all of them. But no, I've watched the Premier League, and it's probably the most exciting it's been for a long time. The year that Leicester won it was quite gripping, and kind of overshadowed our great year. But it's great that there's probably 6-7 teams that could win the Premier League, and there's probably 6-7 teams that could go down in the Premier League. Everybody's beating everyone else. Burnley beating Villa last night. Sheffield United beating Man United. It's amazing. And the COVID situation obviously has something to do with it. Obviously, the preparation for the season was different. The games are different. There's no fans in the ground. It makes you realise that maybe home advantage does probably make a bit of a difference. Obviously, with the fans in the ground and the players having the fans on the back. If things aren't going so well, and trying to urge them on, or obviously if they're doing well, obviously praising and getting behind them. So I think everybody's been affected with this COVID, whether it be on the pitch and the football with the results, financial, but the Premier League is certainly wide open, as is most kind of leagues this year, in both playoffs, promotion, title winners and relegation. I think no one's kind of running away with they're definitely going to win the league, they're definitely going to go up, or they're definitely going to go down at the minute. So it's quite an intriguing football season to watch, but not for fans going into grounds.
Well, exactly. And I think one thing that was, I saw this on Twitter, so it might not be 100% accurate, but at the Man United game against Sheffield United, just a few nights ago, they apparently at 2-1 down, they're passing the ball with sideways between their centre-backs and their defensive midfielder. And it's interesting because I don't think that's the kind of thing that would happen with fans on, because, the fans are losing to a team that's been really struggling this season to, not just to convert their chances, but also defensively. And, there's a minute of the game left, you're behind, and you're kind of playing it really slow. And yeah, it's definitely having an impact, and that was pretty plain for people to see there, I think. And
I think you look that back and you look at when we played our last game in our warm up. It was interesting to see that the way we warmed up was different. We were doing patterns of play leading up to shots. That's what teams will work on all week, with patterns of play. So the Man United, they've been drilled into playing a certain way, and obviously Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Man United have got their way of playing and their own patterns of play. So you've got to have a kind of a confidence that'll work. There's a bit of stubbornness, a bit of arrogance. Nigel was like that at times where he was quite stubborn. He believed in a way of playing. So I get that there was only a minute left of the game and maybe Man United need to go a bit more direct. But if they believe in their philosophy of they're going to play this pattern play and they know what they're doing, then do you go with what you know and what you've practiced week in, week out, or do you go with something that it's a balancing act? It really is a balancing act. But yeah, you're probably right. The fans would have probably been on the back. Would that have helped? I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? But Man United, who are gunning for top of the league for the first time in 5, 6, 7 years, losing to bottom of the league. Yeah, the fans aren't going to be happy, are they? You can turn it around and say Newcastle. Look at Newcastle. They're playing the same way that they only know how to play at the moment with the players they've got. They can't change the way they're playing because they haven't got the people to. They haven't got the players, haven't got the squad to change it. So they're playing in a certain patterned way. And it's dinosaur football, in my opinion. I'm not Steve Bruce's greatest fan on his tactical sense, but I think he's playing the hands he's dealt with in regards of the club and obviously the ownership there, that you can only bring in certain players and spend a certain amount of money. So, your club's set up, so you have to play in certain ways.
Yeah, and I mean, at the same time, I could sit here and debate with you all day about Newcastle, because obviously, as you may know, I've got some relatively close relatives from that kind of way who I think aren't happy with how it's going, to say the least. But, who do you think's going to win the Premier League, Anton? Because we've mentioned there's so many teams that are running. I mean, West Ham, David Moyes doing an unbelievable job. I think they're fourth in the league last time I checked. It might have shifted a bit, but I mean, it could literally be anyone in the top 10, really. And who do you think can edge it?
I think Tottenham have got a really good chance. Mourinho's a winner. He doesn't play exciting football, but he's a winner. They don't concede many goals. They arguably have got the best front 2 out of 3 in the Premier League with Kane and Son. Son, for me, is the best player in the Premier League. He outweighs Salah for me massively. He puts a shift in defensively as well as going forward. He scores goals, he sets up goals. So for me, Tottenham are the ones that I would, if I was a betting man, I'd be putting my money on Tottenham. But I think Man United have got a good a chance as they ever have, and they have for the last few years. You can't write Man City off. You can't write Liverpool off. But again, there's still teams like Leicester, West Ham, and I'm going to say Villa, but obviously the result last night, and I think they've, from relegation candidates last year, they've turned it around amazingly, just like West Ham have as well. So, the 6, 7, the Chelsea, they've had a bad run, and obviously the change of manager. So, say there's 6 or 7 teams that could easily win it. And what about you?
I think for me, it's hard to look past Man City. They're in an unbelievable run of form in the minute, and actually the shakiest moment they've had recently was in the FA Cup with, that Cheltenham game. But no, I think, and they've managed to find some, with Laporte has been, struggling with injury, but it's been really interesting to see Ruben Diaz and John Stones playing at the back together, because they look so solid defensively, and obviously that hasn't really damaged their attacking quality, because they scored 5 against West Brom the other day and didn't concede at the same time. And I just think that's the quality of some of those players in that team. I mean, you think, oh no, Kevin De Bruyne, arguably one of the best players in the world, is injured for 5 weeks, and then you've got income players like Sterling and even Phil Foden, who aren't quite as good as him, or in my opinion, but they're the combined quality of that squad is incredible, and I just can't see past them, going and getting another title.
Yeah, but it's interesting. They had a blip early doors. I remember a quote that Alex Ferguson used to say, the league was never won before February. February is the time to hit form, and you want to run from then. If you can stay unbeaten from February onwards, you're going to be there or thereabouts. You stay in the pack up until Christmas, and once you get to February, you hit form then, and that's when you fly. And that's when Man United in the past were incredible under him. I think that Man United had a setback last night, but they're getting towards where I think they want to be. And if they don't win the league this year, I think next year they'll certainly be up and around there. But as you say, Man City's depth is unbelievable. Still no Aguero, obviously out injured, De Bruyne out injured, and you say the players they're able to bring in, Sterling or Mahrez, De Bruyne. It's incredible. It really is incredible. So Man City have got as good a shot as anybody, I think.
And we obviously were kind of witnesses to their pretty immense squad depth a few years ago, where they made what I think was multiple changes coming in from an FA Cup game against Rotherham that they won 7-0. And like I said, you make loads of changes, and you're bringing in the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Gabriel Jesus, all who have really showed the class they're apart. But yeah, for me, they are. I'll pip Tottenham pretty early on, but I think they've found themselves in a little bit of a rut, and they've struggling to see out games, which is it's an important thing. And if Tottenham can, like you said, if Tottenham can kind of get back to the form they were on at the start of the season, then anyone could win it. West Ham might go on an unbelievable run from here on out and walk the league. Like we said, David Moyes is doing an unbelievable job. Even Southampton are still in there. I really enjoy watching Southampton. I think Hasenhüttl's got them playing some really nice stuff, and Danny Ings now is coming back to fitness as well. He'll be a big boost to their squad. Although obviously they lost again, and it's really difficult to predict.
Everyone's beating everybody, aren't they? It's fascinating. It really, really is fascinating. But I think with people sitting at home only able to watch football on the telly, and it's probably made people watch football more often. I think it's made for fantastic television, fantastic excitement, and it's nice to be able to have a bit of a ribbon at Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City fans that they actually are losing games rather than just being predictable and winning every week. So. I actually think it's quite a good thing for football that it is quite open.
Yeah, and it makes it entertaining, which at the end of the day is exactly what you like to see. Hopefully we will have.
Liking it.
Sorry, what was that?
The bookies certainly like it.
Oh.
A lot of coupon busters out there, and I bet there's not many people picking up many wins on the accumulators and things. So.
Yeah, and that extending all across the league, really. And hopefully we will see some excitement over the next week with Burton maybe bringing in some signings, which will give us some stuff to talk about next week. Anton, thank you very much for joining me. And we'll speak to everyone next week. Nice to see you. See you later.